Good morning and good afternoon to one and all present. So this webinar is being done by Mr. Manjot Singh, who is a managing partner at Elezor Solutions. He's going to cover the topic of multi-skilling today. So now I hand over the mic to Mr. Manjot and he'll take it forward.
Hi, good morning. This is Manjot here, and I am, as Arbaz introduced, I'm from Elezor Consulting, and we are basically into HR strategy and incubation and learning and development practices. So today we're gonna talk about the multi-skilling technique and the framework, which is kind of a unique and in terms of it's the need of the hour, because a lot of places, a lot of companies are placing a lot of stress upon productivity and turnover and retention of its employees, key employees. So multi-skilling definitely helps in getting to all these points. While I think I'm sorry, first of all, I'm keeping putting my phone on mute. That's disturbing a lot, so sorry for that. I believe you have the opportunity of asking your questions during the session and or after the session. No, but you can keep on noting down your questions while I'm going through the presentation, and once I'm done with the whole stuff, we can look at going through your questions, and I would try my best to answer to the best possible of my knowledge. So to start with, I'm assuming there are what are the basic premises which are required. I'll cover that area, what multi-skilling is all about, and what are the various types of multi-skilling. So I'll just briefly give some history to it, and then we typically deep dive into the area of implementation of multi-skilling in an environment, because implementation is one critical aspect in this program. Now, knowing the basics, knowing the terminologies, knowing the technology is all fine, but what works out is how you put it on the ground and how you make it look easy for the people to understand it and grasp it. So we'll spend more time on that area. Just to start with, multi-skilling, as most of us know, it's basically, the definition is like a it's kind of very type of skills, multiple skills that a person has, which can be beneficial and effective for the workplace, and they are both valuable for the employee and the employer, looking at the pace of nature of work that the new organizations are working in, and the kind of functions and the kind of skills that people require these days to perform their job are multifaceted. So there are benefits to both employees and benefits for the organizations. Employees have greater benefit from the point of view of job opportunities and collaborations. They become more flexible because they become adaptable to the various kind of incidents and environments. As a personal goal, they become more efficient, and of course, with increase of your efficiency, with increase in your ability to collaborate and understand the various technologies, and to be able to support an organization on multiple skills, job security is definitely an after effect or a residue of that. Deeper understanding of the businesses and better prospects in the job market is something which brings as a benefit to the employee through multi-skilling. And of course, with these things, the employer gets to benefit to is able to retain people, is able to have better productive employees. They are able to deliver quality deliverables. The the amount of utilization of resources is optimum. You don't need to hire, if a job requires 10 people, you need to have only 10 people. No need to hire 20 people for that or 15 people for that. Now that this ends up overall productivity, this increases the overall the ability of the organization to spend money on the welfare of the employees rather than spending on the productivity of the productivity of the organization. Of course, this brings an environment of flexibility and adaptability within the organization. The people are more flexible to jump onto any job as per the requirement, and there are critical scenarios, there are critical situations where an employee is expected to jump into it and resolve the solution, provide a solution to that problem. multi-skilling definitely comes handy in that scenario. So the scope that we'll be covering during our session today will be basically covering identification of critical skills, which is the first step for any multi-skilling program, and identifying the required personnel, the personnel who will undergo that multi-skilling program is the second stage that you have to pass through. This is a very critical stage because it is the stage where most of the employees are can be either satisfied or dissatisfied, or they you might end up making some employees feel uncomfortable that why they were not chosen up for this program, and why certain other set of specific set of people have been chosen for this program. So this kind of this is a very thin line which as an HR and as the business manager one has to take care, that has to be taken care of very very carefully. So that second step according to me is the most critical in the whole program. So spend your maximum time when you're at the when you're at the stage of identification of resources or the people who will undergo through this multi-skilling program. Measuring the effectiveness of the skills imparted will be the third step. This is the training place when you start training the people and giving them the skills. And the third one is more of identifying the trainers for the future and training them for training them to train other people in the organization as we move on, so that there is a continuity of this multi-skilling program, and there is a sustainability of this program which works out. And of course clubbing this multi-skilling program with the retention policy and the compensation benefit policy adds to the overall satisfaction, employee satisfaction, which in result leads to productivity and retention of the employees. Okay, now a bit of more history. So this is my last slide on history. I'm not much of a history guy. I don't really like personally going through the history chapters, but yes, some of it is required at times. So quickly, multi-skilling, I believe all of you would know, is of two types. Basically it is vertical multi-skilling and horizontal multi-skilling. And when it comes to horizontal multi-skilling, there are different and the other types of multi-skilling under that, which is called skill broadening, cross-skilling, dual skilling, depth multi-skilling. So talking about vertical multi-skilling, what is vertical multi-skilling? It is something which where you train a person, where you provide a skill to an employee through collaboration with the managers, with the peers, with the superiors, who actually would give you an idea of that how multi-skilling can give them benefits. What are the various things that they can learn, like for example leadership skills, for example team management skills. So those kind of skills can be imparted to an employee to give him a vertical multi-skilling experience. Horizontal multi-skilling is something which is a learning of various skills from another discipline or another domain or a function within an organization. So this is something which is basically you spend most of your time training people on. They definitely have a skill in particular one area, but you tend to increase their skill sets by giving more functional growth or more functional experiences by training them on other functions or domains or skills. So for example let's say for example somebody has experience into SAP ABAP ABAP module. Under this ABAP module, if someone is getting to know more about functions like analytics or say about mobility, then those are additional skills which he is gaining in addition to the module of ABAP. So that's how you do the multi-skilling horizontally. And there are various ways of doing horizontal multi-skilling, and those are three, which is basically skill broadening. Skill broadening is basically where your minor elements and tasks are learned on top of the predominant activity, which is the major activity, which major task which the employee already is performing. So expertise is maintained, of course, because he has expertise on the major task. but with the elements which, like, there are certain other functions which have been added to the major task, which makes us, skill multi-skill. So that's skill broadening. Cross skilling is basically where another major activity is learned in addition to the main craft, and a person is considered competent to carry out any activity in those two disciplines. So it's also called as dual skilling. So there are two major activities that a person can manage. So in skill broadening, there is one major task the person can perform and two ancillary tasks along with it. In cross skilling or dual skilling, there are two major tasks a person can perform. That's another kind of horizontal multi-skilling. Depth in multi-skilling is, is the type of skilling where the acquisition and application of the skills is more complex, specific to skills within that same domain or discipline. So these are in the same domain and discipline, but it's specific to same domain or skill discipline, but it is more complex in nature. So that's why it's called depth multi-skilling. So you have ability of a particular skill, a main skill or a major task, but that major task, you have the ability of performing that major task to a quality level of, say, about X right now. And then after depth multi-skilling, you have the ability to perform the task to the X plus Y level. You become even more expert than what you were before this kind of training had been imparted. So so that's the background to it. Before you implement any multi-skilling framework, there are few prerequisites required for that framework, and those frameworks are, basically, the success of the framework will primarily reside how you go about doing the analysis of as is process. So the as is process would include visualizing the change and buy-in from the different stakeholders. So when you visualize the change, you see that, imagining the impact of multi-skilling, what will be the impact of on the organization and the employees both. So from long-term employment and from stable working environment is something which will be there. And also evaluate different options of multi-skilling, like we just spoke, discussed, whether it's going to be cross-functional or skill broadening or depth, whatever it is. And clubbing it with the proper appraisal process and better pay and rewards is going to be a win-win situation for the skilled workforce and for the organization both. So that's the change, that's the benefit that gonna achieve out of this. And before we go in for this, it's very important that we need to have a buy-in from the stakeholders. And now stakeholders is not just the person who is going to undergo multi-skilling program, but his manager, his superiors, and his peers as well. And peer is very, very important, because as I said, people can have the can face the HR can face a difficulty of people getting into a scenario where they find themselves performing well right now as per the expectation of the organization, but they might start underperforming by virtue of that, yes, they were not included in this program, and they might feel demotivated for that reason. And hence you need to be very clear and show a career path to a person, how it is laid out for that person in that organization, so that he or she can foresee whether there is something in store for them, or when is it in store for them. Okay, coming to the so here is it's this is a slide which gives you a complete synopsis of the whole program, the approach, methodology that you will be following during your multi-skilling program implementation. So I have divided that into three major program sections, which is the analysis stage, the implementation stage, and then the last one is the sustainability stage. So analysis and each one of them has one or two phases under it. So total there are 5 phases of this approach or this framework, and these frameworks are basically and this framework definitely is more practical in approach, because I have seen it coming out in live in at least 2 or 3 organizations. And out of my experiences of those 2-3 organizations, I have found this kind of a phase these 5 phases which I've finally derived upon are the ones which really help in implementing it in the organization. And primarily, if you have a background into training and development and the ability to generate content, the ability to train people, ability to do interventions, you can do this, you can implement this program at your end in your corporate offices, in your companies, in your plants, in your sites, project sites, anywhere, as per your requirement. Okay, to start with, so the first key step is basically key skill assessment. So key skill assessment is basically nothing but identifying a skill catalog, laying down the list, laundry list of all the skills which are basic skills which are required for the skill program, multi-skilling program. In this, basically, you pull out a complete laundry list of your skills, jot down all the competencies and the skill sets required for a particular job, and then in consultation with your manager, you review the critical skills and you go through the process of identifying which are the ones which are required for the multi-skilling program. And outcome of this is basically nothing but a skill catalog. So you will have skill catalog as the outcome of this uh, step as end of this phase. Second is phase 2, which is of identification of resources. Identification of resources, as I said, is the most critical in of all the 5 phases of this program. And this program is this particular phase is targeted at identifying the resources who will undergo this training. So no halo effects, no favoritism, and all that stuff is something which is the primary responsibility of HR to take care of, that nothing of that kind happens in this phase, because that's the key factor for this phase. And if you are able to, as an HR, able to tackle this problem and tackle this issue, your success of this program is imperative. So during this step, you primarily look at detailed job profiles of the people. You look at the past performance parameters and the areas indicators of the individual. And after evaluating and reviewing the complete record of the employee demographics, you identify the resources who will undergo this training. And here is where you develop the skill metrics. So I'll show you the examples of how the skill matrix looks like, and what kind of skill matrix, what is it that you all require in the skill matrix. And using the skill matrix, how you can draw a skill chart. So in the next step, we're gonna draw a skill chart. So skill chart is something where you once you've identified the resources, against those resources you start jotting down what is their current level of skills and what is their going to be level of skill after the training. So that becomes the skill chart. So that's what do in the phase 3. We impart the key skills which have been identified in the phase 2, and each of the individuals undergoes different kind of trainings and different kind of skill trainings. There could be and there are scenarios where companies spend about 1 to 1.5 year undergoing this phase alone. So this phase can be as small as a month and can be as large as 1.5 year. Phase 4 is basically once you have done the skilling part. In the phase 3, your resources are ready, they are skilled, they have full skill sets available to perform the multiple skills in the various incidents and in various events. Now the effectiveness of this program is something which has to be reviewed. So ensuring effectiveness of this program is equally important like any other training program. And there are various methodologies and ways that you can do that. So we'll talk about that in more detail as we move on. So I will discuss those techniques with you. And finally, the phase 5 is developing sustainability. So sustainability is something which is basically looking at the continuity of this program. It should not be that it should be a one-time activity. Once you have done this activity, what it all takes to make sure that this continues and is repeated again and again, so that you have more multi-skilled resources in your organization, and more optimization of the resources is taken care of, can be done through the phase 5. So this is going to be the complete roadmap of the multi-skilling program. So let's deep dive into each one of the phases and see how it works out and how it looks like. Okay, so first stage, phase one, identification of critical skills. This is the stage where you actually do a lot of behavioral interventions with the managers and the employees, wherein you do a lot of interaction and interviews with the manager, with the supervisors and the team leaders. You validate the existing skills and tasks vis-a-vis the KRAs and tasks which have been laid out for the particular activity or particular job, and you break down into two areas. One is simple task, the other is complex task. So the question comes to mine is, which are the ones which I'm going to train people on? Am I going to train people on simple tasks or complex tasks? Very simple. Complex tasks are the ones which take more time and require more skill. Hence, you train people on complex tasks. Of course, simple tasks cannot be left back, but they are not going to be the prime indicator or parameters for multi-skilling. Multi-skilling, you do it on the complex tasks. Now, once you have identified and bifurcated these tasks, and the tasks which are required in addition to the ones which are already existing are also jotted down, because you take ideas from the managers and the supervisors, that are there any tasks which they feel should be added into the whole repository of catalog of tasks, or is it sufficient enough? So you include the existing skill sets, skill task, activity and catalogs, and add the new ones into it and make a exhaustive one out of it. And then you bifurcate that into simple and complex tasks. Simple tasks are more, complex tasks are less. So you focus on the complex tasks, which will be the parameters and the premises for your multi-skilling activity. Of course, and the third thing is that you have to compare the list of your catalog of skills with the national skills qualification framework. So just forget this footwear industry, because this was done for the footwear industry. So no, basically here you have to basically here you have to check out that the list of skills that you've jotted down for your specific industry, does it matches up with the national skills qualification or not? Because NSDC, National Skills Development Corporation, has developed a list of required skills for success of any particular skill set and any particular role or industry, that has been laid out very exhaustively by the NSDC. And NSQF is the framework which is normally used for collating that information and cross-checking whether your information that you have gathered from your managers and supervisors and the information with the NSQF matches or is in sync, or is there something alarming that you need to highlight to your supervisors and say, oh, this is something which is missing and we should think of looking at that. So these are the things which actually have to be taken care of. Now, and then segregating, of course, them into the segregating the complex tasks into core skills and cross-function skills, right? So that's the prime objective of this phase. Once you have identified these core skills and cross-function skills, you are all set to start identification of your key resources. So the deliverables in this program are very clear. We understand that there are skills which are bifurcated, skills that are identified, cross-functional and core skills are identified, and each one of them is segregated with their level of complexity. So now you're ready with the next procedure of jotting down who are the core resources which will undergo this program. Okay, so this is how your skill catalog could look like. This is the skill catalog which you have started with, wherein you have the departments and processes under that each had a core job. These are just examples. So you just jot down what are the areas that you actually can train people on, and these are further bifurcated into core skills and cross-functional skills this way. All right, so identification of resources. Again repeating for the sake of repetition, again saying this is the most critical step or phase in this program. Make sure that this program is successful, and to make sure that it is successful, you have to spend maximum time in this area. I mean, say don't spend months on this area, but yes, at least spend 2 to 3 weeks on this area, so that you have right set of people come out for the program and undergo this training. Because organization is spending a huge amount of money, they're going to invest a lot of money in training these people on technical skills later on the skills which are going to be identified for them, and it should not be, the time and money should not be spent on in the wrong areas. So hence this phase is very, very important. Interviews with the team leaders and the supervisors along with the HR have to be conducted again to set the expectation for the program, and know the existing PMS. Gathering the demographics data of the relevant employees to spot on the potentials for new roles and trainings. So basically, looking at the demographic data for each employee to see that how what has been their potentials, what has been their performance parameters, how successfully they have undergone and various trainings, and whether they have increased any potential during those trainings or not. So those are the parameters which can give you a idea about whether this person should go this kind of program or not. Further, conduct focus group discussions, FGDs, with the supervisors and the HR to capture the views on what is the current skill catalog, what is the skill matrix that is required, and the performance parameters. This is just for the HR to capture more information on, and identify the set of employees for multi-skilling program basis, like for their potential to grow horizontally and vertically, and meeting the level criteria. So we'll talk about these levels as in the subsequent slides. What are these levels? So these are basically levels which are defined in the skill matrix, and that is the identification of the people that will undergo through the program. The people who will undergo this multi-skilling program will have to have a level of 3 and 4 to be eligible for multi-skilling training. So multi-skilling training has to be imparted to people who will meet level 3 and 4. People who will meet level 1 and 2 will not be eligible for this program, because it is too early for them to even undergo the multi-skilling program, because they have not acquired even a one major skill to perform. Okay, so that's what it is in the identification of resources, and we develop a skill matrix here. So let me show you how a skill matrix board would look like. So if you see, here are the various levels: level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which are basically like just a general definition, which is like level 0 is a helper, and level 1 is a new entry or a fresh graduate, level 2 is semi-skilled, level 3 is skilled, and level 4 is expert, right? And then there is a nomenclature that you further draw over here, that for each of these levels, what is the level of knowledge that the person has. Does he know, do not know, knows but cannot do, can do under supervision, can do independently, and train others also. So this is what I was saying. People who are in the skill 3 and skill 4 will be the ones who will be eligible for the multi-skilling program, and they will and people who will be in the stage 4 will finally be eligible for the for becoming the trainers in the future, right? So here is the matrix which you have. This is more or less very standardized matrix. Now this can be tweaked as per your requirement, but this is the most standard one which is I've seen most of the companies using, with the name and the photograph of the workers coming over here, with the name photograph here and the name over here, and the skills and the processes listed out over here, and under against each skill and the name, the person is rated on a scale of 4, from 0 to 4. Okay, so this is the definition of the 5 levels that I was talking about, 0 to 4 level. And as I was referring to in one of my slides earlier, that level 3 and 4 is the one which will be eligible for selection for the multi-skilling program. So what is it that they have that they will be eligible? Like level 3 is someone who can demonstrate some relevant theoretical knowledge and can apply a range of well-developed skills and known solutions to a variety of predictable problems, can interpret available information, can take responsibility of owning outputs of the work and taking limited responsibility for the output of the others. Here, the person is able to demonstrate understanding of broad knowledge, not just theoretical, has applied solutions to defined range of unpredictable problems, uh, identification and apply skill knowledge to areas of wide variety of contexts in depth in some areas. And at least this is the stage where the depth horizontal training, depth horizontal multi-skilling can be done, because the guy has in-depth knowledge of one particular area and can go further detail into it. And then he is able to identify, analyze, evaluate information in a wide variety of sources, and can take responsibility for the quality and quantity of the output of others. So the people who are at 2, 1 and 0 are at a very early stages. They definitely will take some years to come up and to graduate to this level. Only then they'll be eligible for 3 and 4, and be very, very strict and very, very logical when you rate somebody into this area, because there can be no one parameter or that couldn't define a person to go into this particular area. I have just put it down 4 or 5 of these parameters for eligibility, but there could be more which can be put down, which can be very specific to your organization or your industry or your specific skill sets. Phase 3, as we move on, is more on wherein we talk about imparting skills. So this is a stage till stage 2, where we have identified the resources, we have identified the people who will undergo those programs, and we have also identified the skills that these people will undergo through. We have evaluated their current as is skills that they have, and what is the level of their skills right now. So anybody who is falling into 3 and 4 will go to phase 3, and we'll start training them on whether it's cross-functional training or dual skilling, or whether it is in-depth skilling, or whether it is broadening of skills. Any of these 3 parameters will be used to impart training to the people. And wherever the gaps are, in consultation with the managers and supervisors, you start the multi-skilling program and you work out the complete training on content on that area. Whether it's technical or behavioral is again next step which you have to identify over there. Most of the places it is technical, because now multi-skilling is very specific to the technology and the productivity of the organization, and it includes most of the places it is technical skills. Certain places it could be behavioral skills as well, but it is very rare that it has been seen that people have undergone behavioral skills in the multi-skilling programs. So once the person has been trained, he would look like something. His skill metrics, his skill chart employee skill chart would look like this. This is nothing but a further extension of the skill metrics which we saw in the previous slide. Here in this skill metrics board, we had just the basic information about the person, the photograph of the person, the name of the person, the skills of that department, and the skill area, the skill expertise level of the current skill expertise level of that worker in each of these skill areas right now. So after the phase 3, this same matrix is further developed, and he's given I'm sorry, I think this is slightly very difficult to see, but yes, this is, if I expand it a bit more, let me see if I can. So if we see this one, this is basically having for each of the activities, for each of the operations, the person has been rated, what was his present at present, and what is the required skill set, what is the required level of proficiency that he requires, whether he requires 3 or whether he requires 4 for that, and his current is whatever it is, whether it's 3 or 2 or 1 or 0. So accordingly, the points are jotted down, and finally the target for each month is decided, that okay, now the person has acquired 19 points, and the points which were there earlier obtained were 14. So that's how the 15 is the target for the that is to be attained through the training, and hence whether the person has attained that target is something is further color coded in the same format. So there's a color code over there, which is basically the person has is he still incompetent, or has just knowledge, or can do job under supervision, can perform independently, or able to perform or train other people as well. The color code applies everywhere the same, so it can be applied in the next level training program as well. This is another example wherein the person can be your skill chart can even look like this. It is more of pictorial. It has got circles instead of ratings on a scale of 0 to 4. These are just this is a quadrant. Each quadrant of circle depicts a number. So that's how it can look like, 1/4 or semicircle or a 3 quadrant and all the stuff. So you can accordingly you can choose whichever way you is comfortable to to look at this graph, whether you want it pictorial or whether you want it numeral and have a color code to it. That is all the choice. So use of non on the job process is these are the kind of trainings that you can provide, like for example refresher trainings, blended trainings, role plays, shadowing, mentoring, artificial augmented reality trainings methods and delivery methods can be used for effective dissemination of trainings in these sections. And there are certain skill development institutes like MIT Skill Development Cell, which can be leveraged. So these skill development institutes have been certified by NSDC, National Skills Development Corporation, and they can further be done on that. Just to give you example, many big companies have implemented skill multi-skilling in their companies, and they have found it very successful. Especially the Mahindra and Mahindra, Mindas, they have program called Gurukul and Pathshala respectively, by the name of Gurukul and Pathshala. They basically use this program for training their internal resources and further reskilling those resources to have multiple skills. So that's how your skill chart would look like. This is something which is the final target thing which you have to achieve in the multi-skilling program, and this is something which will have to be maintained and sustained over the next few years till you further get to do some major change in the program. So that's how you have to further sustain on developing this chart. You have to maintain this chart on fortnightly or monthly basis to ensure that the data is accurate over here, and the employees definitely get benefit out of that, because any of the data that are going to come out of that, the analytics are going to lead to the output in the retention of the employee through your compensation benefit policies and through your retention policy. Okay, so phase 3 is the almost final stage of your program. Now phase 4 is ensuring that how effective has been your program. The trainings that have been imparted over the period of last 6 to 1 year or 1.5 year. In this last 1.5 year, what is it the people have learned? What is the kind of effectiveness people have derived out of this program? And do you really need to spend the money in the same area, or there are some training programs which you need to do away with, or there are some training programs that you need to continue with? So all these questions get answered in the ensuring effectiveness phase. So here you have to involve employees in the process right from the beginning. So far you have been talking to the supervisors and the managers and the HR, respective HR business partners, but here you start involving the employees as well, because it is about effectiveness of their program, the learning that they have attained. Supervisors are aware of the new skills. This is the most important aspect, because people undergo training, and many times the supervisors are not aware of what is the skill that the person has acquired, and by virtue of that knowledge not being there, many times people are underutilized and the resources are not utilized to this with respect to the new skills that have been acquired. And the after effect of that is that the person tends to forget what he has acquired, and the company tend to lose what they could have benefited by using the skill of the person that he has been trained upon. After 15-13 days of training, review the effectiveness of the program imparted and acquired before and after the training using Kirkpatrick model. So I'm sure all of you are pretty lucid about Kirkpatrick model of effectiveness. It is just briefly I'm touching all those aspects. Like Kirkpatrick model talks about you gather information after the training, before the training and after the training on the reaction, learning, behavioral application, and performance impact. So in reaction, you see to what extent did the participant find the training useful, challenging, well structured, organized, and so on. You develop questions on these guidelines on reaction, learning, behavioral application, performance impact. To what extent did the participants improve knowledge and skills and change attitudes as a result of the training? Behavioral application covers to what extent did participants change their behavior back in the workplace as a result of the training. Very critical point. And the performance is the output impact of what is the measurable organizational benefit resulted from the training in terms such as productivity, efficiency, and revenue. So all the information is jotted down against each of these questions, and that gives you data for measuring your ROI. So then there are other approaches like ROI approach by Jack Phillips. This is the ROI approach by Jack Phillips, wherein you have various questionnaires developed on these areas. Now, so, and the next step is basically review the policies and processes to sync them up with the new skills required. So if someone has acquired new skill, if he has got two major skills and he is become critical to the organization, he becomes a high potential. So do you have a policy for high potential? If you don't have, you devise one, you create one. If you have, you revise one. So that's the process you follow over here. That's what you do over here in the review policy and process. Here's a few examples of various measuring methodologies proposed by Kirkpatrick model, like wherein you can ask questionnaires where you have the questions are being jotted down into an outcome, so their answers are jotted down into the pointers, where is the through the population index. So you see that where is the most populated answer response coming up. So that shows you effectiveness of the program. So I'm not happy, could be better, or feels great to be here. So that's give you an indicator of it. Measuring the benefits, like for example, before training what is a productivity level, and after training what was the productivity level. This you can get it from the operations, from the business directly, and that will give you an idea that whether there has been some improvement in the productivity after the training or not. And then there is a Jack Phillips formula of ROI, which is basically net program benefits, which is basically over here, divided by the program cost, multiplied by 100 is gives the value of your ROI. So cost per programs for 25 participants is, for example, is this much, and benefits for programs for the first year is this much, which is expected out of the result profitability of the productivity. Whatever the money that you can convert into profitability out of the productivity is the profitability which you put over here through the programs, and then you devise your return on the investment. So if it is 161%, I bet this is a very good figure which anyone would love to achieve upon. But yes, this is something, the figure which is 2,30,000 something figure is something which is very critical to identify, and this is where you will involve the finance team and the business, both put together will give you this figure. Okay, so that's how you work out your productivity, your ROI from your training programs, and see that how effectively HR can be party to the business development of the organization. And this is how through these numbers will speak what HR has done for the business to be more effective and productive. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. So moving on to the last phase, wherein you ensure that whatever you've done in the phase 1 to phase 4, you develop sustainability, you develop redundancy, that whether you are there or not, the program continues, the project continues, and the trainings keep on getting imparted to people in the same fashion which has been defined in the phase 1 to phase 4. So, and of course, at the end of the day, the productivity also is carried out. So here is what you have to do. You have to ensure that you're conducting these programs regularly every 3 to 6 months. That's very, very critical, because unless multi-skilling program is not continued, the effectiveness of that will not come, because after you train people, they have become more employable. Please understand that their opportunities have increased, so you will tend to lose some people as well. So in order to keep your pipeline rich, you have to ensure that the program is repeated and more people are trained and inducted into the program, so that your potential resources, key resources, is always there. And then you start working on your retention policy to ensure that the people who have finally got into the pipeline, they stay in the pipeline, right? So do few activities over there, like use multi-skilling for horizontal growth and prepare for next level roles. So this can help you do the career pathing. uh, Revise the training content and modules for continuous learning, because 30% of what is actually taught transfers to a job in a job that enhances performance. So repeat such programs. So 30% of your programs are going to get repeated, so make sure those training modules and contents are revised continuously. Keep in mind the resources whose salary is lower in the compa ratio, they would be given a window to give them a hike even in tough times. So this compa ratio, it will get derived from your training analytics, from your ROI. People who have been good at resources, who have imparted specifically to the productivity of the organizations, you need to really take real good care of those guys. That's how you retain people. Supervisors and HRs to review training programs for adequacy, and regular update of skill card metrics board on weekly or monthly basis. This is very, very important. I know this is a very trivial job, very boring thing of updating the records, the metrics, the cards, the boards, but yes, the success of your program is dependent on these three. If these are not updated, the first three phases are all waste, and if those go waste, your whole program goes for a toss. And as I said, the level 4 people who fall in the level 4 of your skill metrics, level 4 of your skill metrics here, these are the people who will become trainers for your future trainees. So identify those trainers who are good on communication, who are good on writing content, who are good at the knowledge of the content, and award them trainer cap so that they are motivated. So it's a whole transfer partnership program, wherein there is a trainee, the trainee gets trained from the trainer, and the trainer, the trainee, and the manager become a team together to do the job and apply the things, learnings on the job. So it's a total transfer partnership program. Make it a transfer partnership program so that it becomes a cycle, and it becomes self-running, self-driven program, wherein the business does it on their own, with the HR just looking at the data, analyzing the data, giving the key indicators, giving the ideas that where they're going wrong, where they need to put more effort on, where is it that they can do something intuitive, what is new in their market. That should be the job of the HR. Once you have done this program at least 2 or 3 times, the fourth or fifth time something will be like more like a looking at the whole program as from an eagle's view, and invigilating it more rather than getting deep into the program itself. All right, guys, so that's about the whole program that I had. I hope I have not made you yawn a lot. I know this is slightly boring at times because there is a lot of data in it, a lot of information in it, but this program is primarily more practical when you put it into action, and derives a lot of satisfaction from the HR perspective as well, because you at the end of the day find it, people getting trained, people getting retained, and the company getting benefited by higher productivity and efficiency. So a total win-win situation, a program which can actually give you a lot of leverage, and I'm sure you're gonna utilize this in your companies. And hopefully, if you have any queries, any questions, guys, feel free to ask now, or feel free to reach out to me later. The team can help you out with my contact and all the stuff, so not a problem. Thank you.